Most people have heard this phrase their entire lives. Carry your cross. 3 words, said from pulpits, printed on walls, whispered in hard seasons. But here is the brutal truth. Almost everyone has it completely wrong. And that misunderstanding is doing real damage. It is either paralyzing believers under suffering they cannot explain, or it is letting thousands of people sit in a comfortable faith that has never once cost them anything. Both are dangerous. Both are leading people away from something Jesus considered a condition, not a suggestion. And once you understand what he actually meant, you will never read those words the same way again. Here is what makes this so urgent. Jesus did not whisper the call to the cross. He did not offer it as an optional upgrade for the spiritually ambitious. He stated it as a requirement. Luke 9:23 records his exact words. Etzes isn't drukken in suik situar porder okurzo automindur. If anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. 3 commands packed into one sentence. Deny yourself, take up your cross, follow me. And then the word that changes everything, daily. Not once, not in a crisis. Daily, which means a cross is not a season you survive. It is a posture you maintain. And a Christianity that never costs you anything is not the Christianity Jesus described. But somehow the modern church has preached comfort so long that the call to the cross now sounds radical when it was always supposed to sound normal. So what does it actually mean? Let's go there and stay with this, because the 5th point is where most believers silently struggle and almost nobody talks about it. First, carrying your cross means choosing God's will over your own every single day. Not once in a dramatic moment. Every single day. The cross was not an accident for Jesus. It was a choice. Long before the nails, long before the crowd, there was a garden, Gethsemane. And in that garden, Jesus prayed something that should stop you in your tracks. Not as I will, but as you will. Matthew 26:39. That was the cross before the cross. The surrender before the suffering. And here is what that looks like in your real life today. It is not always public persecution. It is not always dramatic sacrifice. Sometimes it is choosing to stay in the hard conversation when every part of you wants to walk out. It is forgiving the person who does not deserve it and has not asked for it. It is saying no to what feels good but quietly leads you away from God. Every single time you choose his will over yours, in the small moments, in the private moments, you are picking up the cross. That is not weakness. That is the most courageous act a human being is capable of. But here is the problem most people never want to face. Second, carrying your cross means dying to the version of yourself that lives for approval and comfort. Galatians 2:20, I have been crucified with Christ. It is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. So Paul is not being poetic here. He is describing a real death. The death of the self that craves recognition. The self that builds its identity on what others think. The self that makes every major decision based on comfort and applause. That version of you, the one obsessed with its own image map, goes to the cross and stays there. And this is the part most Christians are unwilling to do. We want Jesus without surrender. We want resurrection without crucifixion. But you cannot have one without the other. The life of God only flows through the places where the old self has died. There is no shortcut around that. And this is where it gets uncomfortable. Third, carrying your cross means staying faithful in the places no one ever sees. Jesus carried his cross publicly, but the real weight was not the wood. It was the choice, and the same is true for you. The cross often happens in private. In the moment when you could lie and no one would ever know, but you tell the truth anyway. When you could indulge in secret, but you walk away. When you could quit the calling because it is taking too long, because the results are not there, because you are exhausted, but you stay. Romans 8:17 makes the connection explicit. We are co-heirs with Christ if indeed we share in his sufferings, so that we may also share in his glory. The suffering and the glory are linked. You cannot have one and skip the other. The faithfulness in the hidden places is what God is building into something eternal. What no one sees now, heaven is recording. Fourth, and this is the one nobody wants to talk about, carrying your cross means loving people who make it costly. Jesus went to the cross for people who were crucifying him. Let that land. And carrying your cross today means extending grace to people who do not deserve it. Serving without recognition. Loving without any guarantee of return. It means the difficult person in your life, the one who exhausts you, the one who has wounded you repeatedly, is not just a burden. They are an opportunity. Luke 6:27 does not leave any room to maneuver. Love your enemies. Do good to those who hate you. And so, name case tosser. That instruction only makes sense when you understand the cross. Because the cross was not efficient. It was not comfortable. It was not fair. It was love at its most extreme cost. And Jesus calls his followers to live the same way. And then there is the fifth one, the one most believers are silently carrying right now without even recognizing it as a cross. Trusting God with what you cannot control. The unanswered prayer, the waiting season that is stretched so long it no longer makes sense. The door that will not open no matter how hard you knock, no matter how faithful you have been. One of the heaviest crosses is uncertainty. And carrying it means releasing the need to control, releasing the demand to understand, and trusting that God is sovereign even when he is completely silent. Proverbs 3 chief, ne I crowds now, by crowds now, so occurs in 5 and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight. Like your submission is a form of the cross. Every time you lay down the need to have it all figured out and simply trust him with the outcome, you are picking it up. And that kind of trust, and forged in confusion, sustained in silence, and is one of the rarest and most powerful forms of faith. So how do you actually pick it up today? Not someday. Today, you begin in the morning before the world demands anything from you. You bring yourself before God and you say the four most countercultural words in the modern age on not my will but yours. You identify the one area where your flesh has been winning lately and you surrender it. Specifically, not vaguely, specifically. And then you make the next small move of obedience, not the big dramatic sacrifice, just the next faithful step that is sitting right in front of you. Because that is what the cross looks like on a Tuesday morning. Quiet, intentional, real. A faith with no cross is a comfortable life with a Christian label. Nothing more, but a faith that embraces the cross, that surrenders daily, that dies to self, that stays faithful in the hidden places, that loves at cost, that trusts in the silence. That faith leads somewhere. It leads to the death of everything you were trying to hold on to and the resurrection of everything God designed you to become. The cross is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of the only story worth living. And now the question that remains, not for someday, not for a better season, for right now, are you carrying your comfort or are you carrying your cross?